It's time for Recipe of the Day. It is around now that I start seeing turkey at the grocery store more and more often. And I want to say that if you want a great alternative for like a weeknight dinner or like your Sunday roast dinner, doing a turkey breast in the air fryer is just the thing. So it's also great for your Thanksgiving dinner, holiday dinners, especially if you have a small group or if everybody likes white meat. This is a great way to go, but it's also just really easy to do. So it's accessible anytime, not just for those special occasions. Okay, so this air fryer turkey breast recipe takes into account whether your turkey breast comes frozen or fresh, whether it was pre-tied like in a net or not, whether it's been pre-seasoned and whether it's been in a salt solution. I've taken that all into account when creating and testing this recipe. I've tried all those different variations. So I have all the information for you no matter what kind of boneless turkey breast you have got. They are usually between 2 to 4 pounds. How much do you need? Well, if you're having a bunch of other side dishes, then when it comes to boneless turkey, you want about a half pound raw per person. So if you had a 3-pound boneless turkey breast, then that would be for about 6 people. If you're having fewer side dishes, a simpler dinner, you might want to go more towards 3/4 pound per person, in which case that 3-pound turkey breast is going to be better for 4 people. If your turkey is frozen, you want to thaw it completely before cooking it. The best thing to do is to leave it in the fridge overnight, or the turkey breasts are small enough that you can fill your sink up with cold water and put it in there. Just every now and then go and test that the water still feels cold, and if not, you can add more. It's still going to take a couple of hours for it to thaw completely. Okay, whether it was frozen and you thawed it or it was fresh, you want to pat it dry with some paper towel. I should just say, if it's in packaging, take the packaging off first and then pat it dry. If it's got any kind of netting or twine tying it, holding it together, leave that on. So you're just taking off the like plasticky kind of packaging, not any kind of twine or net. That is all safe for the oven and safe for the air fryer too. Okay, so you take off the packaging that you're taking off and you pat it dry. Now, what you need to know now is whether your turkey breast was pre-seasoned or whether it was packed in a salt solution. If you got this at the butcher counter and it's just like meat on a styrofoam tray wrapped in plastic wrap, nothing has been done to it. But often when it's in one of those like fully sealed packaging, then you can look and you'll see it says on there somewhere that it was in a solution containing seasonings and some amount of salt. If it was in that kind of salt solution, you don't want to add any salt anywhere else in this recipe, and you would not want to brine it yourself. If it does not have a salt solution, then you can season it with the seasonings that I'm going to talk about, including the salt, or you could even do that turkey brine that I talk about all the time. I will link to it for you. So delicious. It just has onions and garlic and herbs all pureed together, like you're essentially juicing those ingredients into the brine, and then that all soaks into the meat. Really, really wonderful flavor. I will link to that. But you're only doing that if your turkey breast did not already come in a salt solution, okay? Now, if it was in a salt solution, but it doesn't mention any other seasonings, then you can put the full amount of seasonings that I'm going to talk about. But if it mentions other seasonings, you might want to be a little bit careful because you're going to have way too much going on, okay? Now, I'm going to say that my recipe says that if your turkey is not in a net or has not been tied, this is when you would tie it, and then we're going to add the seasonings and oil. I will say though that I usually do it in the opposite order because you get more of the seasonings and oil on more surface area of the turkey if you do it before tying it and then tie it after. But the reason that my instructions in the recipe have you tie it first is just because it's easier. It's less slippery and less messy, and it doesn't make that big of a difference. Okay. So I'm going to go in the order that the recipe says to go in so that I don't confuse you too much. So if your turkey has not been tied, it's not in a net, you're going to get out some butcher's twine and you're going to kind of pack your turkey into a tight little bundle, and you want the skin, if there's any, still on top, and then sort of everything else tucked in under almost like a little football shape. And then you're going to tie it with butcher's twine. Cut like 5-10-inch strands of butcher's twine, lay them down spaced out, put your little football of turkey on top of that, and then tie it tightly all the way down each of those strands. And that's just going to help it cook more evenly, and you're going to get nicer slices as well. After you tie those ends, if any of them have like long strands trailing off, you can cut those off. And like I said, if it was already in a net or already tied, you don't do that. Okay, then in a bowl, mix together a teaspoon of salt if your turkey was not in a salt solution and you haven't brined it, and then a teaspoon of garlic powder, a teaspoon of paprika, half a teaspoon of sugar, and a quarter teaspoon of pepper. Mix those all together if you're using them, and then stir in a tablespoon of cooking oil, olive oil, or whatever you use, and then you're going to smear that oily seasoned mixture all over the outside of your turkey breast. Then it is going into your air fryer. You don't have to preheat it. Go into the air fryer at 360 degrees Fahrenheit, and you want to start it on the nicer side up so that the side that you wouldn't have facing up for presentation is on the bottom. And that's just because when the turkey is raw like this and it's on that basket, which has some patterning on it, little holes in it or whatever, that pattern will transfer onto the meat and you'll see it on there. So you want that on the side that you would not have presentation up. So you start your turkey breast nice side up, and it goes in that 360 degrees Fahrenheit temperature for 20 minutes. Then flip it over and cook it for another 20 minutes, and then flip it back over, and this is when you test the temperature. You're going to use an instant read thermometer in the thickest part of the turkey breast, and you kind of slide it in and slide it out slowly, and make sure at no point is it below 155 degrees Fahrenheit. If it has not reached 155 degrees Fahrenheit, put it back in at 320 degrees Fahrenheit for 5 to 15 minutes until it's there. Then you're going to take it out and let it rest, where it's going to come up to the safe temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit. So you'll let it rest for 5 to 10 minutes and it will rise up. I will just say that the turkey breast is a little bit smaller than some roasts. And if you are at all concerned about the temperature, if you're immunocompromised or just, want to be extra safe, you might want to wait and take it out at 160 degrees Fahrenheit. And then in the 5 minutes that it's resting, it will for sure get up to the 165 for you. I find that it works out fine for me at 155 to take it out, and that it comes up high enough for us. And that is it. You take off the netting. You're going to have to use some kitchen scissors to snip off the twine or the netting. Sometimes the netting is a little bit annoying and kind of breaks off in little pieces. So just kind of do that on one cutting board and then move the turkey over to another one after, so you don't have those little bits of string there. So you want to be aware of that. And then you just slice that turkey and serve it. I will say that my favorite things to serve with this, I have two of them. One is a compound butter recipe that I developed specifically to go with turkey. And it has thyme and sage, parsley and rosemary. Really delicious. You serve it kind of dotted on the turkey. Really good on the potatoes as well. And that helps, sometimes people find white meat to be a little bit drier. This brings in that super flavorful moisture. Another thing that always helps if you find your white meat a little bit dry. And hey, I just want to say, this is not going to be dry turkey meat. Just sometimes people find the white meat dry no matter what, So the other thing you can do is a gravy. You're not going to get drippings from this air fryer recipe. The turkey breast often doesn't give you enough drippings anyways, no matter how you do it. So I recommend the recipe I have for making gravy without drippings. It's a wonderful make-ahead gravy. If you do end up with some drippings, you can add them to it after. But if you don't get any, you're going to have beautiful flavor no matter what. So I will link to both of those, the compound butter and the gravy recipe, in the show notes for this podcast episode. I will also link to this air fryer turkey breast recipe, or you can go to cookthestory.com/ROTD and get it there. Everything there is arranged by date, so it's helpful to know that today is October 21st of 2025. I am Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookful.com, the all-new chicken cookbook, and from this podcast, Recipe of the Day. I hope you have a great day. Let's get cooking.